All right.
All right.
What's up, man? Ready to start the podcast? Hey, everybody. Thanks for coming back to the show. Nocturnal Notions. I'm your host today, Aaron. This is going to be about the Lyrans, and that is a race of aliens that have been alleged to have been here on Earth at one point in time. Maybe still are around on Earth at this point in time. They are also called starseeds instead of just aliens, which, I mean, all aliens that we've covered so far have been considered starseeds. The Nordics, the Pleiadians, the Greys, they all have their own starseed origins. And there is a lot of material about starseed stuff everywhere, if you like what you hear today about them and kind of what being a starseed means and what it could mean if how you take it. Of course, the way that you take it means a lot, of course. But today we're gonna be talking about the Lyrans, and to do that, we kind of need to know what starseeds are at their very core, at the minimum. We're gonna touch right on it here at the beginning. So, what exactly is a starseed? At the very core, a starseed is believed to be a soul that didn't originate on Earth, but instead comes from another place in the universe and is chosen to incarnate here. And the Lyrans, who we're going to be talking about today, are some of the more ancient and kind of fascinating group in that conversation when it comes to starseeds. So, who are the Lyrans? They are said to come from the Lyra constellation, which is small but powerful. In a lot of spiritual and esoteric traditions, they're considered one of the oldest humanoid races in our part of the galaxy. So that's pretty cool. That means that they could have been, around from the get-go, and maybe around perhaps as long as the alleged Anunnaki have been around too. Because if they've been around forever, so maybe they might have worked alongside Lyrans. Who knows? Be kind of wild to think about, isn't it? Their appearance is pretty different. They have human-like features, and most of the time I have at least seen reports of them like staying humanoid, except for in the eyes. The eyes tend to give them away if they're down here. The eyes tend to give them away, but they have variations of like feline features, avian features, bird features, and wolf-like traits. And that part of it, the wolf-like traits, always kind of hits home for me. Not really hits home, but like always strikes a chord with me. It resonates with me. I've been pretty spiritual for pretty much my whole life, even though if you've known me my whole life, you wouldn't know it. But I like spiritual things. I'm pretty prone to spirituality and things like that. All humans are. It's one of my niches. I like it. But one of the guides that first appeared to me ever was a wolf, like a golden brown wolf. Always around, always been there. Never left. I say a lot. Sorry. As I tried not to say it. Kind of makes you pause and wonder, though, right? Is that just symbolism? Is there something deeper there? And yeah, that's, like most spiritual questions, there's not really a final answer. It's something that you just keep exploring. And if you think you found the final answer, then you probably actually haven't. It's the more you know, the less you know, and the more you need to learn. So, moving on from that, though, let's talk history. Like the big story, at least the version of history that comes through these traditions. Lyrans are often described as one of the original seed races, which means they played a role in spreading humanoid life and consciousness across different star systems. So, again, that kind of signifies that they could have been around at the time of the Anunnaki, which honestly, a lot of these alien races were probably around in one form or another or a different faction at the same time that the Anunnaki were. Let's just be real. Like, if if we know that there is something out there that exists that's not us, then they obviously know of each other. If we know that they know that we know that they know, then we know that they know. No, no. Anyway, to me though, that also means they weren't just observers; they're also explorers. They build and they travel, and over time, their influence is said to have reached pretty far. Like it went all the way to like the Pleiades star cluster, which we've talked about. There are Lyrans in the Pleiades. That's also been talked about. Sirius, which probably more accurately is Sirius B, because that's one that you can't see with the naked eye that is alleged to have civilization on it. And then they're also linked to early Earth civilizations such as Atlantis and Lemuria. I think that's pretty cool. If they had a hand in building two of the world's greatest alleged civilizations, that would be just that'd be tickled pink. That'd be wild. That'd be pretty cool. There is a little bit more of an intense part to their story that kind of ties in with everything I've always heard since I started getting into starseed theory, which honestly I started to get into it probably about a decade ago, but I really got into it in the last couple years overall. Really intense the last year and a half. But they were in war for a hot minute, quite a long time, with the Lyrans and them against more control-based civilizations. It doesn't really go into more depth than that in what I found. Because of that, the Lyran home systems were said to have been destabilized or destroyed, which I could see that being the case. There's allegations of a nuclear war that happened here. Allegations, like I said, hearsay, conspiracy, mostly based on depleted uranium samples in the soil at levels that they shouldn't exist, because depleted uranium like that isn't supposed to have existed that far back into our time frame, and yet it does, and it doesn't just occur in nature. So, but that led to something that was called the Great Migration, which is them going, literally just everywhere. Pleiades, probably like we talked, star clusters down to Earth, literally everywhere. They didn't disappear. They kind of spread back out. They rebuilt. They carried what they knew into new places, and they helped shape what come next. And helping shape what comes next is like integral to human spirituality. It is. It doesn't matter what you believe in. If you're not helping shape what comes next, then you feel empty. If you're not doing something to manifest the beliefs that you claim to hold, then it is all for naught, as they would say in Old English. It's literally for nothing. And that's another definition of, well, we're not going to get into that. I'm not going to be like that. But the theme, though, carrying their knowledge into new places and helping shape what comes next with it, that's kind of something that we should all maybe do as individuals. Like, we should be more flexible. We should be a little bit more adaptable. We should be willing to take what we know and go somewhere new with it and help somebody with it. If we're going to take this literally, we should be willing to talk to a stranger about it if the stranger wants to talk about it. Yeah, that's one way to take it. A lot of spirituality in this episode, as much as it was supposed to just be about what they are and what they look like, which that is briefly touched on, of course, but not. It's just crazy. Everything tends to be spiritual in one way or another. We'll be right back. And we're back. Okay. As we were saying, the theme, though, explains a lot about the energy of the people that associate with Lyrans. And of Lyrans, I should say. Yeah, we'll get to the people part that act like Lyrans also here in a little bit. But the core themes of Lyran energy, when you look at their story, a couple of different things stand out. Creating culture and meaning wherever they go. I'm going to do this, and I'm just going to randomly pick one of the four. That's the very last one, but I'm going to do the last one first because I like that one a lot. Creating culture and meaning wherever they go. That's what you should do. You don't necessarily want to like blend in with everybody when you go places. I don't think you should stand out, but you shouldn't stand out with the sense of that you're trying to stand out to get people to notice you. You should just stand out because of maybe how you act, or how upright you are, I guess, for another way to state it. How upright you might be. As I go to put my shoes on in the middle of doing this episode because I don't know, I need to. Either rate, creating culture meaning wherever they go. I could think of a few examples of people, different ethnic groups that do this here on Earth. And it's not to bring up anything divisive or political, especially with everything going on right now politically. But the Native Americans have a culture that goes with them wherever they go. The the Mexicans have a culture that goes with them everywhere they go. You know, uh, so on and so forth. Everyone's got a culture that goes with them wherever they go. If you really think about it, they do, and there's nothing wrong with that. Like intermingling of cultures is how civilization is advanced, and that's just a natural order of things, I feel. Next one, rebuilding from nothing. I have done this, I don't know how many times as an adult, probably more than I would like to really admit, if I'm going to be honest. Rebuilt from nothing. I've had, not necessarily this massive of, well, I didn't actually start collecting Hot Wheels till a couple of years ago, so that doesn't really count. I've never collected anything, but either way, I never really accumulated stuff like this into a spot ever since I was about 20, 21 years old, and I'm 35 now. I've been pretty stable for the last 6, 7 years, so that's a huge accomplishment. But that's not what we're here to talk about. What I mean is, though, is that this kind of came from nothing. This is an example of rebuilding from nothing. It was nothing. It is not easy to do, and there are a lot of people out there that do it far more repeatedly and have to deal with it a lot harder than I probably ever did. But again, not necessarily what I'm here to talk about. Just saying, rebuilding from nothing is rough. So if anybody can do it and they can do it and succeed at it after they, have done it, saying it redundantly, I guess, uh, then you might say that they got that Lyran energy, for real. That's something that they're really known for. No matter what, they always come back. Always come back. You won't keep them down, and that's how we should be too. You can't keep us down. That's how we should be. The next point: valuing freedom over control. This one is most definitely right up my alley. I don't care. I don't like being controlled. You can ask anybody that knows me. You can't. I to the point of if you think you can, I'll go out of my way to make sure you can't. I don't like that. I am my own man. I can make my own decisions. I don't need controlled. If you just tell me logically why I need to make that decision and it actually is logical to me, then I'll probably do it. It's that simple. But I value that far more than control. There is no, I don't like to control. There's no point in trying to do that. It doesn't work. It doesn't take away from someone's freedom. Just let them have their freedom. If they are a good individual, then that will speak. If they are not, well, it will catch up to them, I promise. It absolutely will catch up to them. The last one, survival after loss. Losing a whole lot. That kind of ties in with rebuilding from nothing. That is basically losing everything and still being able to walk away from it. Okay, a more literal example could be like you get into a car accident going 70 miles an hour and your van gets flipped 7 times, and you and your significant other and your two kids get out of the van, and like one kid's got a broken arm and the other kid's got a sprained ankle and dad's got a bloody nose and you've got a bloody nose, but that's it. Everyone walks away from the crash. That's really lucky, but that's an example of survival after loss. That's making it, no matter what's getting thrown at you. That's a pretty big core theme of Lyran energy. No matter what, just survival. Hardy. They definitely weren't passive to conclude all of that. They're definitely pioneers. If they're as ancient as they are claimed to be, that would make sense. Of course, they would be pioneers. But tying into the core themes of Lyran energy, if you go into Lyran traits, you might notice certain things about yourself, such as you don't do well with authority, especially when it feels forced or fake. That ties into the freedom over control. If it, I understand this one quite a bit too. That's one of the biggest issues that I do have with authority, just in general, is that most of the time the authority that is telling me that they have the authority doesn't, because they don't know what they're talking about. Okay, they don't. They don't know what they're talking about. So if I know what you're trying to talk about, but you don't know what you're trying to talk about, who's the authority here, man? Are you really the authority? I don't think so. I don't think you're qualified. I'm not saying I'm qualified, because I'm definitely not. I'm not qualified for stuff like that at all. But if you don't know more than the people that you claim to have authority over, then you ain't crap. Plain and simple. I don't know why that's so hard for people to understand. It's just super easy for me to pick up. You sense truth in art, music, or storytelling on a deeper level. So basically, I look at it as everything is allegorical. There are so many different bands that I've listened to over the years. I'm a pretty big musician. I play guitar. I've played piano. I don't do good at piano. I sing. I'm getting my singing voice back since I quit smoking. It's come in a lot nicer sounding, but I'm getting my singing voice back. But played guitar for 20 some years, over 20 years. And I have always noticed that there is always truth to one degree or another, whether you're ready to understand it and comprehend it or not, woven into music and art or storytelling. And storytelling is like the way I got into, figuring out what it lies underneath as far as what's the real truth of this story. And music's the one that I can give that to people with the best, if that it makes any sense. I'm pretty, like I said, I like music. I'm pretty good with music. But all of the examples I could think of, a good chunk of the music that I've listened to, at least here recently, has been allegorical of, a man in the stages of awakening. To the point of, ego death is illustrated in one example that I could think of. I don't want to necessarily name it because I don't want to, get yelled at by the copyright police, but allegorical of all of the stages of awakening, and every album that they have is like that, and it's really cool. I like stuff like that. It tickles me pink to see that. When you finally get it, sometimes, and in this case, this album I'd listened to for really about a year and a half, pretty much on repeat, before I figured out that's what it really was about, allegorically speaking. Could be taken that way. But we'll be right back. And we're back. I'm going to take a drink real quick because root beer. Now, before I get back into this Lyran episode, this is super random. Most of this happened while I was getting the drink. So, I don't know if anybody out there will really see this besides the people that I've kind of already talked to about it. But, anybody knows that the weather for the 4th of July is kind of weird? Maybe it's just me. It's just me. I don't really remember lots of storms around the 4th of July. At least not in the last, not recently. It's always been already super hot. There's threats of them all the time. And then it just gets super hot and the clouds disappear and it's just hot. Super hot. The last several years I can remember there being a burn ban in place around the time of 4th of July because it was so dry that if you set off shit, it would go and everything would just shrivel into dust. It was so dry. That is not the case. Like, we just had a whole bunch of people shooting fireworks off last night around the trailer, which, I mean, I'm not complaining about. I'd shoot them off if I had them, but I don't care. It's fireworks. It's 4th of July. But probably 30, 45 minutes after everybody's done shooting all of them off, there's a gully washer of a thunderstorm that come up out of nowhere. And it was probably not out of nowhere. I'm sure it was forecasted, but a lot of rain, a lot of rain. And we just had another one that just ended like maybe 15 minutes ago that was also a lot of rain. It's almost like everyone wants to they're wanting everybody to shoot fireworks off, because if you're a conspiracy theory and you think, or theorist, and think anything of HARP, interesting, right? Coincidence. No such thing, but that's what we got to call it, because we don't know. Picking back up on, sorry, I have a really random ADHD rabbit trail for everybody else to listen to. Picking back up on the Lyran traits, we had just got done with the sensing truth in art, music, or storytelling on the deeper level. The next point that is after that is that peepery. I'm not going to edit this out. This is going to be in the episode. People, people tend to trust you or gravitate towards you naturally. I'm going to leave it in there because everyone's going to be like, oh, hey, this dude's just a human, and maybe they'll watch it. And that's kind of how I want to go. They tend to trust you or gravitate towards you naturally. So essentially, you show up, and it's kind of like the running gag with if you had the biggest beard in your friend group, everybody will naturally think you're the leader. It's kind of it's a running joke. That's not necessarily the case, but that's kind of accurate of what that says. Tend to trust you or gravitate towards you naturally. If you're an awakened individual, you're gonna get that kind of pull from people. Period. I've noticed that with all of the starseeds, that's a reoccurring trait. People tend to gravitate towards you if you're a part of a starseed thing, period, or if you're just awake. If you're awake, they tend to be like, oh yeah, that guy knows what he's doing. Well, how do you know? I don't know, but we just know he does. Like, you're going to bebop on over and go talk to him because you feel like you can and get away with it. And most of the time, you're right. The next one. You have a strong sense that you're here for a purpose and you go after it. Yes, that's kind of what's happening with this show. I feel like I have a purpose. I feel like it can be accomplished with doing this podcast. That's why me and Sam are doing it. Sam's been wanting to do a podcast for a hot minute. Okay, well, I've been like, I don't know. I don't know if I want to do something like that. Well, here I am doing it. It's not that bad. It's actually kind of fun. So, my ears are huge. Anyway, strong sense that you're here for a purpose and you go after it. I still don't even know fully what the purpose is. I just know that I'm supposed to be doing it. That plan will be unveiled further along as it needs to be unveiled. I have to look at it like I've already seen it as a movie, because it's a movie and I've already seen it. I already know how it ends. So I need to visualize how the movie is and then forget about it and go live it. That's that simple. Well, simple. I say simple, but next one. Your happiness comes more from within than from outside validation. And this is something that you should try to do for real, for real. This will solve so many problems that you might be having with anybody. Like, as from within than from outside validation. So don't look to anyone or anything for outside validation. Your happiness comes more from within. So, kind of goes in phrase with the biblical saying, the kingdom of heaven is within you. Your happiness comes from within, kingdom of heaven is within you. If you are genuinely happy, you will make other people genuinely happy. If you're genuinely miserable, that's what everybody else is going to be when they're around you also, is genuinely miserable. And nobody wants that. No one wants someone who's generally miserable. So it tends to be a lonely existence. I did it for a while. I don't like being miserable. Nobody likes me when I'm miserable. They don't come around. I don't necessarily mind that. I'm kind of a loner when it comes to who my friend circle is. So, but on the flip side, people are part of the plan. So, got to be good with people, man. You do. Last one. You genuinely, gosh damn, genuinely believe in human potential even when others don't. Yeah, it's like somebody I used to be friends with would say it would say that Earth's going to hell in a handbasket. Well, go ahead and throw it in the fire. It's done. It's going to hell in a handbasket. Just leave it, man. It's toast. There's no point. No saving it now. No, sorry, I can't buy that. That's not something that resonates very well with me. I still very much believe in human potential, even if humans are kind of essentially at this point in time, some of them are garbage. Uh, I still believe we got potential. I mean, we all got to come together. That's essentially what it boils down to. We all got to come together in the words of the song, which is also what I'm saying. Underlying truth. Kind of funny to think about it like that, and use music to illustrate your points. Music really hits home to illustrate points like that. That it has been used to highlight moral injustices for many, many years, probably since its existence. It's kind of like the idea of the jester. The jester is, considered a fool, so he can say anything to the king and get away with it because he will not be taken seriously. Which is like, in a sense, whatever kind of artist is, you can say literally anything to the people in charge and get away with it because you won't be taken seriously because they consider you a jester. And that is pretty deep if you think about it. But we'll have more on that when we come back. Well, not more on that when we come back. Now we're gonna go talk about the Lyrans and the Pleiadians will be our next point. When that will pretty much probably be right about the end of the episode is what it looks like. So, but we're almost there. We got a little bit more to go, and then you guys will be caught up on this. And then me and Sam will be catching you guys up on some stuff about Arcturans. And that one's going to be really interesting because there's some things I've heard recently from various places and friends that make Arcturans really hella interesting. But we'll be right back. And we're back. Now we're on to Lyrans and Pleiadians and their connection. Allegedly, from that conflict that we mentioned earlier, they were kind of driven to that cluster of stars, the Pleiades, and of course that they took them right in because that's how the Pleiadians are. If you know them, then you need to come talk to me because I'd like to know them too. It'd be awesome to meet them face to face. You know who you are. But if not, then, you got to say allegedly. Not say allegedly, but you could take it allegedly. You could also take it symbolically because they might just be spiritual aspects of things that we've long forgotten. But another interesting dynamic is how they are said to work alongside the Pleiadians. And the way that they describe it is it's kind of like, a real nice balance because Lyrans bring that warrior action packed energy. Like they're there to be like, hey, let's go, and they want to do it. They're ready. They're ready to take action. They're ready to they're ready to move. Excuse me, all phlegmy. Uh, actions. Like they understand things need to be done. They're ready to do them. They sometimes are ready to do them so quickly that they don't know what they are, and they go try to do them, and it's just messy. I would put it like that. If you base it off of how humans with Lyran energy act, then maybe that's the case for them too. Because we're like, hey, let's go do stuff. Let's go do stuff, and it's like, no, you don't need to be doing that. That's not what. Oh, oops. I tried to help, made it worse. Done that before. But then Pleiadians bring the healer, teacher, and like sage vibe. So they're the ones that are like namaste. And they do stuff like that, and people are able to float after they heal their chakras, kind of stuff. That's what the Pleiadians do. That's just me being silly. They probably don't do that. I mean, if they do that, that's cool. I mean, I'd like to see it, just because then it's like, wow, my sense of humor's got a place. But they bring that healer, teacher, sage energy. So like your Lyrans are your barbarians, and your Pleiadians are your clerics. Maybe. Would you say Pleiadians would be clerics? Would they be clerics, or would they be like if they're predominantly spellcasting? Cleric is pretty good because they also got pretty heavy armor too. But I wouldn't say that they're druids. I don't either. If you think you know what class Pleiadians would be in D&D, you should definitely leave me a comment because I'd like to know. Cleric sounds pretty good because of all of their healing abilities that they have if you were to play as a cleric. But I don't know. That's kind of interesting to think about. I never really did think about it. But, barbarians are basically, or barbarians, Lyrans are basically your barbarians and your fighters. Those are the guys that take all of the damage. So your Pleiadians are your clothies, for lack of a better term. They're not that they can't take damage, but in this sense, they bring the healer, teacher, sage energy. So they're in the back going, throwing potions of vitality to people while they're up front taking blows, kind of stuff. Potion of speed. I cast Featherfall. Stupid stuff like that. But together, it's a super powerful combination. They work really well together. They don't go hand in hand, but they hold hands really well. You know what I'm saying? Like being able to bring a warrior action-packed energy and then backing it up with people that heal, teach, and are wise. Yeah, that's good temperance. That's a good combination. So, bigger picture, what does all of this mean? Well, whether you take it literally or symbolically or somewhere in between. So it all depends on how you take it because these are, this is a, a discussion. The Lyran story really is about something bigger. And, for people that are out there that are like me, that are like, no, what does it mean? Tell me what it means. Tell me what it means. Just tell me. Don't make me guess. It really is about something bigger, okay? I had to kind of put myself at ease when I was doing my research on this because it's like, what's the bigger picture? I can't find it. I still can't find it. Like, the more I think I know, the less I know, apparently. Like, why can I not still find it? Because you're not supposed to find it. Maybe you can't find it until certain times come, which is, for most people, maybe that's just death. Death is not what we think it is. It's not what we think it is. It definitely isn't. So, but the Lyran story is really about something a lot bigger than that. It's about finding your place, figuring out where you belong at in the world. And, you can belong anywhere you want to, but anywhere you belong is where you feel comfortable and the happiest. And where people are okay with you being that. And if they're not okay with you being that and try to drive you out, then you're obviously not supposed to be there. Excuse me. So it's also about remembering who you are. Remembering, in our case, who we came from, where we came from. Fly. Remembering who you are. Remembering where you came from. Remembering your ancestors. Like, honoring your ancestors. You don't have to worship them per se, but, it took an awful lot of people surviving long enough to reproduce to get you to be alive at this point in time right now. A lot of people. Not as many people that you would think, but at the same time, it took a lot of people. So, remembering who you are is something that you should do for sure. And in this case, it also means that, remembering who you are isn't just remembering who you are as you exist on this physical plane of existence. It's also remembering who you are on a soul level from, if you believe in reincarnation, from how many lifetimes ago, but remembering who you are, remembering what you came from, literally what you came from, because we are stardust. And it's also about realizing that you're part of something much larger than yourself. And I kind of say this, I've said this several times since before the podcast started to become a thing, but when I started meditating, really, like, you can be as unique and individual as you please and stand out that way. And it is awesome. to do that, and I like to do that too. I like to stand out. I don't want to stand out to be necessarily noticed. I just like to stand out because I do my own thing. Like, I do my own thing, so that's why everyone's watching, because they don't see people doing their own thing. That's how I look at it. I'm not necessarily doing it for an audience. I'm doing my own thing. But that's not really the point. Something much larger than yourself, like, basically you're just one little tiny, tiny grain of sand on the beach, and only together with your fellow grains of sand do you actually form the beach. So it's cool to be unique. It's also cool to be part of a collective, be part of a whole, and that's what humanity needs to be: is to be a collective. It needs to be a whole. It needs to be whole. Like, it just need to be human. Like, who cares about anything else? Just be human. Who cares about anything else? Just be human. It gives people a sense of belonging and a sense of purpose, and that alone really makes it worth exploring. Like, to, really get into the starseed side of spirituality, especially like starseed theory really ties in with like energy. If you are energy sensitive, like me and Sam mentioned in the last episode, with the energy that's been going on for like the last 4 to 6 weeks, I'd honestly, it's probably closer to 2 months, but 4 to 6 weeks for sure for the majority of everybody else. It ties in a lot with starseeds and a lot with these alleged starseed races. It ties in quite a bit with it. So, something that is definitely worth exploring if you're into that too. It's also into, if you are a believer of maybe the ancient astronaut theory, which is that, our gods that we have depicted were just ancient races of aliens that were down here, or they were alien human hybrids from those alien races. Then that also ties into starseed theory. It all comes together. It really does. All of it is linked. So, yeah, that is the Lyrans. They're ancient explorers. Gosh, I swear. Ancient explorers, survivors, creators. And just maybe there is a small piece of that story that lives inside of you. Only time is going to tell. And that time is coming soon, I feel, for a lot of people that are going to be watching this in the days to come. So, thanks for tuning into this episode, guys. It's awesome divulging a little bit of the information that I've learned with the people that are watching. It's great to do this. It's a lot of fun. Take care, guys. Be safe. Happy 4th of July.